This game is made primarily for a Chinese audience. It's not made to cater to the Western audience. It has nothing to do with the cultural war in the West. Again, to the people in the West, I'm sorry. This game is not about you. The world does not revolve around people in the West.
Hello， 大家好，欢迎回到外媒看中国，我是安博然。Even if you're not a gamer, you would have heard about the massive international success of China's first AAA game, Black Myth Wukong, based on the classic Chinese tale Journey to the West. Now, the game has excited a lot of people, including many Chinese who feel that this kind of soft power is a perfect opportunity to show Chinese culture to the world, free from the confines of biased and negative mainstream media representations of this country. But as with every success from China, there are detractors. Some in the industry are claiming the game lacks diversity and that its developers are sexist. Now, how relevant are those smears and why is Wukong such a massive success? Today, I'll ask all those questions and more to my special guest, podcast host and media personality, Carl Jia. This is Reports on China. I'm Andy Boreham in Shanghai. Let's get reporting. This Tuesday, Black Myth Wukong, a Chinese-developed video game based on the classic Chinese legend Journey to the West, broke records, selling 8.4 million copies and raking in hundreds of millions of dollars in just 3 days. To say this has energized the gaming industry, especially here in China, is putting it lightly. For more insight, though, I'm happy to welcome today's special guest, host of the Silk and Steel podcast and media personality, Carl Jia. Carl, welcome to the show.
Hi, Andy. Thank you for inviting me. I have to correct you though. The game has already sold more than 10 million copies as of yesterday, 9 p.m. Beijing time.
It just keeps growing. That is so awesome. I don't know much about video games at all, so I definitely need to get your take here on this massive success. So first up, I want to ask you the basics. Can you briefly tell us a bit about Journey to the West and its importance to Chinese audiences, and also where this game fits into that legend?
Well, first of all, Journey to the West is one of the 4 great Chinese classics that every Chinese children grew up with. Even Chinese people who may not have read the novel in its original form, they would have consumed it either through cartoons or TV series or movies. Everyone knows the story by heart. And so this is why a lot of people in China are very excited to see basically their childhood memories being brought to life in the game form.
So obviously then the story and that legend, Journey to the West, is very much a Chinese one. But one of the talking points in the West, especially online, has been the alleged lack of diversity, largely based on Western identity politics standards. Rolling Stone magazine, I don't know if you've seen, but they did a piece titled Black Myth Wukong is a hit. But there's always a but. Why is the game so controversial? Where they said the game's Steam page featured homophobic comments from users. And then IGN claimed that the game's developers are sexist and misogynistic. Screen Rant gave the game 3 stars out of 5 and said it largely lacks inclusion and representation. They said, although Black Myth Wukong does have truly enjoyable moments, the underlying feeling that women are not welcome in the world felt present throughout my gameplay experience. So, Carl, what is your take on all that?
Well, a lot of the criticism are contrived, either based on mistranslation or not understanding the context. For example, the so-called sexist comment by the developers is done by journalists who lack basic knowledge of Chinese language, and they take things out of context. And again, the last article that you mentioned, the reviews that said the game lacks diversity, lacks women. So apparently the reviewer has never played past chapter 2 of the game because all the female directors happened after chapter 2. So he made a very hasty conclusion based on a couple hours that he put into the game and just said, okay, well, I have to find some fault with this game. Where are the women? Well, if you play on, you will see plenty of women characters. But lastly, I wanted to point out that this game is made primarily for a Chinese audience. It's not made to cater to the Western audience. It has nothing to do with the cultural war in the West. Right now there is a very fierce cultural war being waged on in the gamers community, but this game has nothing to do with that. It's a labor of love made about a great Chinese classic. It's made for Chinese audiences or people who have read and enjoy Journey to the West. And I think he hopes to introduce the Journey to the West to more audiences, more broader audiences. But their goal is not to be involved in this Western cultural war, which most people in China not even aware or even care about.
Yeah, I want to get into that shortly about the international appeal. But firstly, I want to ask, do you think, so people in China, do they think this game's sexist?
No, again, the criticism about the game, it wasn't even that the game itself is sexist or the gameplay introduced sexist element. The criticism was about specifically regarding comments by the developer of the game. For most people, when they purchase a game or play a game, the thing they're looking for is whether the game is enjoyable. Whether the game is, they might be against it if the game is trying to shove some ideological agenda down your throat, which only thing I can about say that this game is maybe it's trying to introduce Chinese culture. Because the great thing about this game, you don't have to know about Journey to the West to be able to enjoy the game, but it does spark curiosity to someone who is not familiar with this cultural background, and maybe that will allow them to go dig in deeper. That's the purpose of this game.
Yeah, I wanted to touch on that because, people were speaking of pandering to international audiences, but many here in China have noted that the success of Wukong is a great opportunity, like you said, to showcase Chinese soft power to the world. Now, while I think that's a great byproduct of this game's popularity, I also can't help but feeling that just a little bit concerned about changing too much of China's culture and Chinese stories in order to make content palatable to the foreign audience. In fact, the game's producer, Feng Yi, had a contradictory view. He said that the game was not designed with cultural export in mind, and that they want to stay true to the Chineseness of Journey to the West. So what's your take on that?
I think if that's their intent, they have largely succeeded. But if you look at the data we get from Steam, most of the users right now are coming from China or the greater China region. Obviously, the game gained great acceptance among its targeted audience, which is Chinese people who grew up with the story and they fell in love with the story and they want to relive through the story through the game. Again, to the people in the West, I'm sorry, this game is not about you. The world does not revolve around people in the West, much less the Chinese speaking world. And this game is dedicated to mostly people who are enjoyer of Journey to the West. But I think they also try to use this as a vehicle to introduce Journey to the West to much larger audiences, which I think they did a great job by sparking the curiosity in people. Again, this game is not about about catering to the taste of the West, but for the people who are looking for diversity, there's plenty of diversity in the game. I mean, this is a game about a monkey who go on to fight demons who shapeshift into humans. I mean, for people who go read Journey to the West, eventually you're going to find a chapter where they travel to the kingdom of women and male pregnancy ensues. So I mean, there's something for everyone in here. I mean, there is actually diversity both in the book and in the game. People should really just, give it a chance before, pay attention to all these chattering in the gaming journalism.
So Journey to the West obviously was written hundreds of years ago, and you said before, that people who want to play the game don't necessarily need to understand Journey to the West. So how easy is it to get into the world of Wukong if you haven't read or if you aren't familiar with Journey to the West?
It's very easy because this is a live action game. I mean, you will get plunged right in very early on. I mean, but what you might make I mean, there's not too much of a narrative building because mostly you are just traveling through different stages, fighting monsters through this very gorgeous Chinese landscape, which is based on real places in China. And so I think I've been watching people playing this game on YouTube. I already seen a lot of the gamers, many of them Westerners, express a lot of curiosity by things they saw, things they interact with in the game, and they want to learn more about. Many of them said they want to now learn more about Journey to the West. I think that's what the game was designed to do. It's an entryway drug for Chinese culture, if you will.
Nice way of putting it. Hey, last up, I wanted to get your insights into what you think might be coming in the future. So do you feel that the success of this game, Wukong, will lead to a massive explosion of more amazing Chinese games? And do you think this success can be matched? And also, you said before that Journey to the West is part of a series of legends. What do you think might be coming up as titles for other games?
Well, if anything, the big success of Wukong shows that Chinese gaming company has the capability of making a blockbuster AAA game. What I hope is the success of Wukong will make the larger Chinese tech players like Tencent set up and take notice. Like there's actually money can be made in making AAA single player games, which many Chinese players obviously enjoy. Because right now the focus is primarily on mobile games with a lot of microtransaction. That's where the big money has been invested in. So I hope the success of gaming science in making Wukong will lead more investment into making more blockbuster AAA games that will appeal to a wider audience. And as you mentioned, there are plenty of Chinese mythology, Chinese classics to draw inspiration from. Japanese companies actually have done this for years. I know Koei made Dynasty Warriors, which has been very popular in the West, which is based on another Chinese classic, The Romance of Three Kingdoms. So there's a treasure trove of Chinese history, Chinese culture to draw inspiration from to make another blockbuster game like Wukong. And I hope to see more.
If you could choose one piece of Chinese mythology for the next game, what would you choose?
Oh God, that's hard to say. I mean, Romance of Three Kingdoms is done to death, but there has been. I would love to see a game based on Feng Shen Bang, which, because especially there is a recent Chinese blockbuster movie came out called Investiture of Gods, which is another piece of Ming Dynasty novel based on very ancient past of China, but with a lot of mythological elements involved. I think that game would make a great game material.
Awesome. I'll keep looking into the future. Carl Jia, thank you so much for coming on the show today. And on that note, that will be it for today, you guys. But as always, I would love to know your thoughts. Have you played Wukong? What are your thoughts? And should the game developers consider making future games more inclusive? Let me know down below. And don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you haven't already. It really does help the channel. I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.